A couple weeks ago, we saw two separate ejections from two separate games during the same week of the NFL season.
Number 17 for Los Angeles has been disqualified.
Wow. Oh, wow. Whoa.
Wow.
Both of these were questionable. I mean, sure, they're technically justified to the letter of the law, but if we're being honest, then worse stuff than both of these happens all the time, and nobody has to go sit in timeout for it. Good God. Or how about this one? I mean, that's a pretty clean right hook right there. No one was ejected for this play. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not asking for more ejections. Nobody wants more ejections. I mean, they are humiliating. They hurt your team by eliminating you via loudspeaker like you're being called down to the principal's office.
Number 83, because of his actions, has disqualified himself from further participation.
But sometimes in the heat of battle, you just can't help yourself. Tensions get high, this punk comes and shoves you in the back, and yeah, you gotta do something stupid. You gotta punch his helmet with your regular ass fist. Because nobody can be perfect 100% of the time. Sometimes it's just better to be good at getting away with it. To this point, history's been pretty good at forgetting NFL ejections. Quirky Research has assembled the most complete log on the internet dating all the way back to 1978, so shout out to Quirky Research for venturing into the mud. But that got me thinking. For something that's got really inconsistent records and even more inconsistent enforcement on the field, who out there in NFL history has just sucked at getting away with it? Players getting tossed isn't exactly rare in the NFL, but it is rare for any one player to rack up a ton on their own for the simple fact there are just not that many games to get tossed out of. 82, 82, 162, 17. That's the number of regular season games across the 4 major American sports leagues. That means getting ejected from just one NFL game is like getting thrown out of 5 straight NBA games or 10 straight MLB games. So you better tuck that middle finger back away unless you have run out of options. So when I ask you who is the most ejected player to date, there are probably a few players that spring to mind. Ndamukong Suh, Vontaze Burfict, Bill Romanowski, the scary ones. But reputation can be a little deceiving in these waters. All 3 of those players combined for just 4 in-game ejections, despite their laundry list of crimes. Because like I said earlier, this racket is not really about what you do, it's about what you're able to get away with in that moment. Fines and even suspensions can roll in after the fact, but getting tossed from an active game takes a special set of circumstances. Every ejection has to start with 1. A flagrant action. The general consensus is that NFL referees are blind Hitler, but they actually have even more power than that. Per the league rulebook, refs are given free rein to disqualify any player for any foul or action they deem flagrant, defined as extremely objectionable, conspicuous, unnecessary, avoidable, or gratuitous. None of these words mean anything on their own, and that's on purpose, but in practice, this divides ejections into 3 loose categories. You got unnecessary roughness after or away from the play, anywhere ranging from love tap to so egregious I have to censor it to not get age restricted. Then you have your bog standard fights between 2 or more players, usually with both of them getting ejected. The most ever tossed during one scuffle was 5 between the Dolphins and Bengals back in 2020. This was because Ron Torbert had not eaten lunch. Last, you have disrespecting or contacting any party not involved in the game. The most common is jawing with an official, and it doesn't matter how creative you are with it, they will always get angrier. Bottom line is the ref is given as much leeway as they need to keep control of a game, whatever that might mean in a given scenario. The unspoken agreement is that you give a slightly longer leash to the most important players, because this is an entertainment product at the end of the day. Nobody wants to see Peyton Manning thrown out just for forehead butting. In fact, throughout NFL history, only 3 quarterbacks have ever been ejected from a game, and people disagree on that number all the time. Fran Tarkenton got bounced for spiking a ball into a defender's head, Tony Banks for fighting and striking an official, and Trent Dilfer for going rhinoceros mode on John Randall. So no one is technically immune, but there is room to maneuver. Not to mention, the biggest caveat is you have to be 2, caught by the ref. This kind of goes back to our initial point, refs miss a lot. They miss a lot directly where the action is, sometimes even when it has the capacity to decide a game. So if you're doing football crimes inside of a pileup, or just in front of an otherwise distracted ref, you might walk free without even a flag. That's why ejections are so impossibly annoying to compare. They all have to be evaluated in their own little vacuums. One ref's warning is another ref's hat toss, and sometimes you just get an unlucky draw. In recent years, Brad Allen has been an absolute GOAT ejector, with 19 disqualifications in just 11 seasons as a referee. The average number typically settles out to about 1 or so per year, so he's going ballistic. Nowadays, with targeting being focused on and NFL Big Brother in New York now getting involved, the water just continues to get murkier and murkier. So even though, yes, it is wrong, it might be understandable for somebody to get ejected once, by accident. Twice, maybe they're both understandable, but either way you have a temper problem. Anything beyond that, you are just truly horrible at getting away with it. Since the AFL and NFL officially merged in 1970, 5 different players have been ejected from 3 separate games in their career. There are others that came before, certainly, but for simplicity's sake, we're going to remain in the modern era. Only 5 are offered a spot in this elite club, but we're not just here for elite. A true ejection artist isn't just unhinged, he's efficient, racking up the most disqualifications in the absolute fewest number of games possible. Ideally, he doesn't even like playing football. Now our first 2 honorees, Jim Osborne and Mark Lee of the Bears and Packers respectively, I consider these 2 just good company guys. 10 plus seasons and 150 plus games for the same squads with only 3 career ejections each, that's a handshake and a gold watch in my book. Now Vincent Smith, this is an entertainer, a true renaissance man, the only player in history to record the 3 different classifications of ejection in 3 different years, like an EGOT for pissing off the officials. And Vincent had a flair for the dramatic, got tossed for contacting a ref, went and stewed on the team bus before anyone else had even left the field. His teammate Joe Kane was quoted saying, "Now I have to listen to him for the whole next month. No one understands how hard this is going to be for me." Shout out Joe Kane. Alonzo Spellman had a troubled career on and off the field, but even then, he still knew he needed a place in ejection lore. He made sure one of his 3 ejections was during one of the only quarterback ejections in history when he fought with the Rams' Tony Banks. You could say these gentlemen lack foresight, but he set up a callback for me 30 years ago. At the end of it all, nobody compares to the king of NFL ejection. Every other player in the triple ejection club had a career that spanned at least 9 seasons to earn their 3 ejections. But Derek Burrows? He was thrown out of his 3 games in just over 4 total seasons in the NFL. 55 games to 3 disqualifications. That is an insane ratio for any era of pro football history. But what makes Burrow's ejection linsanity run so remarkable is not just his speed, but the fact that he managed to get thrown out by the same referee in all 3 of his ejections. Ali and Frazier, Bird and Magic, no rivalry can hold a goddamn candle to Derek Burrows versus Gene Barth. And you can't even argue that it was the players he was fighting against because each of Burrow's ejections were against a different team. The only commonality was Barth. And Gene had his own flair for the dramatic. Round 1 in '85, he chucked him out in the first quarter. Round 2, here's Gene announcing that Burrows has been ejected in the middle of an active play, too locked in to even give a shit. But their final encounter was one for the ages. 1988 AFC title game, a Super Bowl appearance on the line. In the third quarter, a frustrated Derek Burrows throws an off-ball elbow at a Bengals receiver. Not very nice, but a call easily missed by most officials. Gene is not going to let this slide.
We have a personal foul, disqualification on number 29, defense.
Burrows is ejected, Cincinnati scores a touchdown on the following play. The Bills would go on to lose, but Derek Burrows securing a legacy as the king of NFL ejections has to have meant so much more. Very sadly, Burrows would suffer an injury that would end his career the following season in 1989, and as is the case in many great rivalries, Barth found his heart just wasn't in it to eject anyone else, and he retired just a year later himself. All that burns bright is fated to a swift end, but in the world of NFL ejections, there's never been a duo to burn brighter. Now, you may have noticed that the latest year of any ejection in the Triple Ejection Club is 2000, which means it's been decades since any new member has joined, but I do have hope for the future. Among the 47 players with exactly 2 suspensions since 1978, 11 of them are still active today, and 6 of those players have been ejected within the last 2 seasons. If the NFL continues to grow more liberal with their ejection rules, which would be bad news for football, it would be great news for the Triple Ejection Club. The odds are stacked against them, but there are a couple favorites to join. The cost is very prohibitive, and that's without even mentioning the fines, but you do get your name on this Google Doc that I made. As for the future of NFL ejections, they are going to remain annoying and opaque unless some cataclysmic event occurs that forces the league to add more objective language. Every change is fought tooth and nail by the old guard no matter what, and I mean, this was a real headline the last time they changed the ejection rules. At the end of the day, the NFL is a deeply, deeply reactionary league, so as a rule, nothing will be tweaked unless it has already been obliterated by the passage of time. Here's the thing though, whether we see 100 ejections or 0 over the years to come, no matter what, I've already witnessed the greatest to ever do it.